Hello everybody, I'm Lindsay, and this is not what my skin really looks like. This is the truth. This is a lie. This is the truth. This is a lie. But that's the extent of the lies that I'm gonna tell in this video. I got my IU shirt on today. It's brand new. I'm pretty excited. If you're familiar with IU at all, you know how freaking hilarious it is that they put this, like, explicit content. IU is adorable and harmless. Trigger warning, this video is about having compassion for people who have temper tantrums and are super aggressive. So if you have or have had an aggressive abuser and you're not at a good spot to process the point of view of that kind of person, you are totally valid and this video might not be safe for you. If you do decide to stick around and it gets uncomfortable, don't forget, the exit is just a swipe away. Generally speaking, aggressive people are wounded. People who lose their shit over things that seem trivial are most likely having a trauma response. Their nervous system is crying for help in the only way it knows how. And whenever I see someone flip out online, whether it's in a Reddit thread or a Discord channel or Twitter, you name it, people have absolutely no problem just judging the shit out of them with no sympathy whatsoever. It's like society has decided whoever is perceived as the aggressor has forfeit their personhood. Whenever someone blows up over something trivial, the focus is always on the failure of that person to grasp the triviality. Why would someone get this worked up over something as silly as whatever? It's never on how excruciatingly painful it must be to live day after day at risk of being catapulted from your sanity into a whirlwind of fear and rage just because of some trivial shit. You did the thing and the thing means the thing and it's just because if you knew and if you said if you did the thing, you should know to do not do the thing. I think for a lot of people, compassion for aggression implies an agreement to endure it, or approval of it. But it doesn't. It is possible to think someone's behavior is repulsive and to want nowhere near it without exacerbating their suffering. And I assure you, it's a lot harder for wounded people to heal if the internet is constantly telling them, unabashedly, with zero challenge from their peers, that they're pieces of shit. I think judgment of aggression usually involves two unfair assumptions. Number one being that they started it, as in the first sign of aggression is obviously the beginning of the conflict, because nothing valid causes aggression but aggression. But outward aggression is not the only thing that can spark a conflict. The world is a lush cornucopia of trauma and triggers. Everyone sees their own ensemble of ghosts in the haunted houses of life. And when someone gets triggered, something actually happened that actually hit their brain at an angle that conjured up actual trauma, even if it didn't affect everyone else the same way. It may not be a shared experience, but it is their experience, and there's no such thing as an invalid experience. And if that makes no sense to you, I promise we're gonna go deeper into that in a future video. The point is, we don't know shit about what that person has going on. We're missing too much context to tell the story. Our experience of their bullshit will teach us far more about ourselves than it ever could about them. The second assumption is that these bursts of aggression can be controlled. And if a person is acting aggressively, they're choosing not to take that control at the expense of others. And yeah, their temper is their responsibility, but they quite literally can't decide in the moment to turn their anger off if they haven't done the preventative care involved. When we're triggered or enraged, we have limited access to the part of our brain, that would be the frontal lobe or prefrontal cortex, that manages our self-control. So for people with aggressive trauma responses, to stop flipping out, they would have to work on that before they get triggered in the first place. They need safety. They need to heal. They need to repair their wounded nervous system and develop a tolerance for triggering situations. Straight up, angry, triggered people can't make the rational decisions that we judge them so harshly for not making, any more than a stabbing victim can stop bleeding on command. Yet these guys like Jordan Peterson are out there getting revered for saying shit like, safe spaces aren't safe. Fine, if you want to live in a world full of unhealed, traumatized people incapable of rational thought, be my fucking guest. I'm actually pretty ambivalent toward Jordan Peterson, but this no safe spaces rhetoric is a fucking disaster. It's probably kind of confusing to hear that when we flip out, we have no fucking clue what we're talking about, because we tend to lie about that, because we're ashamed. Ashamed people lie, to ourselves and to other people. So when we're calm, a lot of the time we double down on the stupid shit we said. We play it off like we did it on purpose. Like a cat who didn't quite nail the landing. Or me whenever I attempt stand-up comedy. And in the moment when our friends try to snap us back into reality, the reason we don't listen is because we trust our trauma responses more than we trust those friends. Which actually makes sense. Most of our friends weren't taught what I just told you about the prefrontal cortex. So historically, they've assumed we're choosing not to control the flip out, and they get judgy. Ergo, over time, traumatized people learn to protect themselves from the friends who judged them, with even more super fun, aggressive trauma responses. But if their friends chose to provide safety instead, they're not obligated, it's a choice, but if they did, the triggered person's trauma responses would stop replicating. That friend would be making space for healing. Psychological trauma impacts the brain just like physical trauma does. Sticks and stones may break our bones, but words can break our minds. And the sticks and stones that broke our bones can also break our minds. And the cast for a broken mind is safety, support, and compassion. And the less of that we get, the more unsafe we feel. And the more difficult we're gonna be. Not to mention the more terrified we're gonna be. This just in, if you haven't heard, feeling unsafe makes us feel scared. And frightened people aren't exactly lauded for their admirable social conduct. But that doesn't mean we lose moral points if we can't provide someone safety. A volcano doesn't have access to its prefrontal cortex either. Its eruptions aren't its fault. But we're not assholes if we don't want to live next to one. There's a huge difference between not accommodating a difficult person and believing they don't deserve accommodation at all. And the traumatized people who feel morally compelled to support other traumatized people in particular really need to internalize this idea, which is also a topic that could be its own video, but the point is, if we see ourselves as helpers, we can get mad at people for not being helpable. But if we recognize that a person's healing doesn't rest on our shoulders alone, it's easier to make like Elsa and let it go. If I were a DoorDash driver and a delivery order came up on my app that was too far out of my way, I can decline that order. Someone else will get it. There is no need to be like, fuck that guy, he doesn't need food anyway. We don't have to treat others the way we want to be treated. Children don't need to be parents to their parents. Patients don't need to be doctors to their doctors. And there are plenty of people out there who stick their penises into all sorts of things with zero desire to be pegged. So in closing, it's possible to accept that we can't handle an aggressor without treating them like no one can handle them. Facing the reality that we can't deal with all the people may hurt our egos, but receiving repetitive messaging that we don't deserve compassion hurts our souls. And we are all more likely to move forward together if we respect ourselves and each other as we are. And that's it. That's the end of the video. I am so grateful to each and every one of you. End transmission.